Minasan, konnichiwa. Hey guys, it's Chloe. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a textbook review. So I have mentioned this book before a couple of videos ago, but I wanted to dedicate a full video to it because I do like this book, like TLDR. I do recommend. Obviously before you buy you kind of want to know what you're getting yourself into. So today we'll be looking at the Bunpo Buddy books. So I've mentioned the N2 one before, and I did go back and buy N3. Yeah, let's just get right into it. So just a bit of background, I guess. These books are by the Japan Times. They do a lot of really good Japanese learning resources. The N3 level contains 84 grammar points and the N2 contains 120. They do now have N1. I don't believe they've published N4 yet, but I'm sure it's coming. Yes, so the basic kind of concept of these books is obviously grammar, obviously JLPT, but it's not just explanations and JLPT questions. There is a heavy emphasis on output. Specifically writing, you are expected to write several sentences using each grammar point as it introduces it, which I think really sets it apart from other grammar books, especially JLPT grammar books. A lot of grammar books will kind of give you the grammar point and then just give you multiple choice JLPT questions, which if you're specifically learning for the JLPT is fine, but I think a lot of people learning Japanese want to actually be able to use it, be able to speak it. So having these output activities really brings it to another level. So another thing I like is in the very front it has this kind of reference chart, I guess, reference sheet for the different parts of grammar. So that's really easy to reference back to when you are, going through the explanations and things like that. Another point is the app. There is an app you can download that has the audio for all of the Japan Times publishing books. So there are listening questions in the JLPT question sections that has the audio on the app. And then one last thing before we get into the main part of the textbooks is kind of the setup. Obviously depending on how many grammar points in each book will determine how many chapters. So the N3 book has 14 chapters with 6 grammar points each, and the N2 book has 15 chapters with 8 grammar points each. Each chapter will have a vocab list, the main section for each grammar point, which gives you the explanation, how to form it, example sentences, and then the writing practice questions. And then at the end of each chapter it will give you JLPT practice questions. So the vocab list at the start of each chapter is words used in kind of the main section. So in the example sentences for each grammar point, as well as in the written questions, any words that it kind of assumes will be unknown to you will be on the first page of the chapter. So I really like this because even though obviously the main focus is grammar in this book, it does save you having to kind of look things up elsewhere, whether it's online or in another book. So I think that is a nice touch. Then we get into the main portion of the grammar. So it gives you example sentences right away with the grammar point highlighted in the colour of the book. So in N3 it's green, in N2 it's orange, I think N1 is pink. So straight away before you get any more information from how to form it or exactly what it means, you're seeing it in context, so you can kind of gain some understanding from the context, what it means. And I really like that they've done it this way because it gets you thinking. You're not kind of just passively consuming the information, it's kind of making you think about it a bit before then giving you longer explanations. Then you have the how to use section. So I actually really like the way that they have set this up. You can see it's like a little equation. So it gives you, what it attaches to and the different forms that the grammar point can take. So it's very clear, it's very straightforward and easy to understand, which I do really appreciate because grammar sometimes can be very confusing. And then obviously you can refer back to the example sentences and see it used in context, which can better help you, understanding how it's formed. And then there is a longer explanation about what it is used for, so kind of the meaning. So the main explanation is in Japanese, but there are translations in English, Chinese and Vietnamese. And then we get into some of the practice questions. So there's a couple of simple, circle the right answer in the brackets questions, and then you get into the writing questions, and this is really the kind of whole selling point of this book, because you're having to really use the grammar and understand how it's used. It's not just recognizing the language, it's being able to reproduce it, being able to use it. So usually the first few are kind of more structured. They give you more information to work with, you just have a small bit to fill in, but the gaps tend to get bigger, so you're then doing half the sentence, and then the last couple are usually kind of full sentence productions. So I really like that approach because it kind of eases you into it a little bit, you're not having to write full sentences completely by yourself, it is guided. And then once you're done with all the grammar, you can then move on to the JLPT questions. There is usually reading questions, and then grammar questions, and then listening questions. So these questions are all based on the grammar that you have learnt in the chapter. So usually the reading questions change. It's not the same types of reading questions in each chapter. So if you're familiar with the JLPT exam, there are a range of reading questions. So there's like short passage, medium passage, long passage. Each chapter is a different reading question. So I do like that it is varied, because if it's the same types of questions every chapter, then it can get a bit kind of repetitive. So this, brings in some variety. And then for the grammar questions, it's always the same. It is the selecting the grammar form and the sentence composition questions. So I think those two are fairly straightforward. And then for the listening questions, there's 2 listening questions in each chapter. The first question changes, the second question is always the quick response question. So again, the audio for the listening questions are on the app, and then that's like the setup for one full chapter. And then at the very end there is a kind of glossary for the grammar, so if there's anything you want to look back on, you can easily find the page. Now there isn't any like full JLPT paper or anything in this book, but I don't think it needs it. Japan Times has several practice books available, so this one is just the focus on the grammar. Another point, there are extra resources on the website. As I said at the beginning of the chapter, there is a vocab list, but that vocab list only covers the kind of main grammar pages. So if you want the grammar list for the JLPT practice questions at the end of each chapter, you have to print a separate list. So it is just a list of words, but these are specifically for the JLPT practice questions. So yeah, it's divided into nouns, adjectives, verbs, etc. So if you want vocab list for the JLPT questions, then that's available for free on their website. There are also extra practice questions for the grammar points for each chapter. So it's a check test. So honestly, I kind of wish this was part of the main textbook, but it's not, so whatever. So there are 3 types of questions. So the first question is again more of these bracket questions. You're given 2 options and you have to choose which is the right one to complete the sentence. The second one is more of what's actually in the textbook. You have to fill in the blanks yourself to complete the sentence. And then the last one, and I did mention this in the last video I talked about this book, but these questions, I wish there were more of these in the textbook itself. I think these questions are really kind of the most beneficial, and it's a shame that you only get 2 per chapter, but it basically asks you a question, gives you the grammar point to use, and then it's like a free response. Oh, I should also say there is a pull-out answer booklet, so it gives the answers for the multiple choice questions in the main grammar pages, as well as answers for the JLPT questions. and the listening scripts. So obviously there's no answers for the like fill in the blanks, because obviously you can kind of fill it in with anything within reason. I do believe there might be example answers on the website, so if you're really struggling you can check the website and they should give example answers there. But yes, then that brings us to the end, I believe, of the Bunpo Buddy JLPT textbooks, workbooks. I will just say, you know, N3 is 84 grammar points, N2 is 120 grammar points. Whether or not that is enough to pass the JLPT is up for debate. There is not a set list for what's included in the exams, so it can be tricky, you know, to be sure that you've really covered everything. So that's just something to be aware of. So I would say possibly that's like the only negative, is I'm not sure if it's, you know, enough. Because it says it's like must know grammar points for the JLPT exams, but you know, you can't really know what's going to be on the exam. So take that with a pinch of salt, but you know, as a standalone textbook, I think it is very good. I think it is definitely worth giving these a go. So yeah, I do recommend these books, and they are fairly new, which is why I wanted to give them, you know, a dedicated review. Again, they have N3, N2 and N1 available currently. N4 I imagine is coming,